I hadn't set foot in this building since I was 23 years old. Swore I never would again. But there I was, 38 now, walking into the cold lobby of my late father's construction firm, holding my son's hand like a damn lifeline. My name's Derek. I live out in Springfield now, raising my kid on my own. Today I was back in Houston, Texas, for something I didn't ask to be part of. The receptionist barely looked up before directing us to the 10th floor. The elevator ride was silent except for the cheap buzzing overhead. My son, Ryan, 10 years old, squeezed my hand tighter every floor we passed. I could feel the old tension coming back, shoulders up, jaw tight, stomach churning, like it used to whenever I walked into one of Dad's board meetings. The conference room was glass-walled and too bright, like some kind of sterile courtroom. A long table stretched across the middle, already packed with people. Extended family, old managers, vultures, basically. Nobody looked happy to see me. "Look who finally decided to show up," my sister said, loud enough for the whole room. "Guess the prodigal screw-up wants one last handout." The air left the room, fast. Every head turned. My uncle, Frank, let out this barking laugh and pointed right at my kid. "Bet he just came so the kid could learn early what failure looks like. Start the family tradition, huh?" Ryan's hand jerked in mine, but he didn't say a word. I could feel his body stiffen. The air smelled like stale coffee and fake leather. The chairs squeaked as people shifted, avoiding eye contact. I didn't say anything. Just walked to the far end of the table and sat down, keeping Ryan close. My hands were shaking under the table, but I kept my face blank. They never forgave me for leaving. I'd walked out of this place 10 years ago, with nothing but my baby boy in my arms and a backpack of diapers. I chose being a dad over staying under their thumb. Never looked back. But I remembered everything. The door opened again. The family lawyer stepped in. Mr. Hagan, same guy who'd drawn up Dad's contracts for 30 years. He looked thinner, older. His briefcase hit the table with a thud, and the room went still. Whatever happened next, I already knew one thing. I wasn't brought here to be remembered. I was dragged back to be erased. I didn't look at anyone. Just kept my eyes on the table like I was back in school, waiting for the teacher to call me out. My hand was still around Ryan's. His thumb was rubbing the side of mine, slow and steady. He always did that when he knew I was holding something in. Truth is, I grew up in this firm. My dad built it from the ground up, and from the time I could walk, it was made clear I was supposed to carry it forward. Problem was, I didn't want to. Not the pressure, not the hours, and sure as hell, not the constant measuring up. "You don't have the stomach for this," Dad told me once. I was 19, working construction sites every weekend, doing what I thought would earn me some respect. He said it right in front of a site manager, just loud enough. "You're too soft. That's your mother in you." I heard some version of that every damn year, until I left. My sister Danielle never got that talk. She was sharp, cold, and always knew when to nod, when to challenge him, when to smile for the board. Stayed behind, took over, cleaned up the narrative. In her version, I bailed on the family to go play house with a one-night mistake and a baby I couldn't afford. Uncle Frank was Dad's mouthpiece. If Dad said something cruel, Frank doubled it. If I argued back, Frank stepped in, always with that grin like he was daring me to swing first. He treated the business like a kingdom, and himself like the executioner. The year I left, Ryan was just 2, still barely talking. Still holding my neck when I carried him. I packed up a beat-up Honda and drove across 3 states with no plan. Just knew if I stayed, they'd grind me down until I became someone my son didn't recognize. The invitation showed up 2 weeks ago. No call, no message. Just a white envelope with the firm's letterhead and a time, date, and location. No condolences, no, "We'd like you to be here," nothing. Could have been a mistake. Or maybe just their last chance to rub it in. I almost threw it out. Ryan saw it on the counter. He looked at it, looked at me, and said, "We should go." I asked him why. He shrugged. "Feels like something you need to finish." That stuck with me. So here we were, sitting in a room full of people who'd already made up their minds. I could feel their stares like needles. The old project manager who once told me I was wasting my last name. Aunt Carol whispering to someone behind her binder. Every glance was a sentence. Every silence said, "He doesn't belong here." Danielle hadn't even looked my way again. She was leaning back in her chair, flipping through her phone like she already knew how this ended. Uncle Frank was grinning across the table, arms crossed, looking like he wanted to spit on the carpet just to break the quiet. Mr. Hagen cleared his throat and started organizing papers in front of him. The noise was small, but it sliced through everything. My stomach flipped. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't sure I even belonged here. But Ryan didn't let go. Mr. Hagen adjusted his glasses and opened a thick folder. The sound of paper shifting made a few people sit up straighter. Phones went silent. Forked tongues tucked themselves away. He cleared his throat. This is the last will and testament of William Charles Mercer, signed and notarized 7 months prior to his passing. The words came out like dry gravel, each line slow and cold. My heart was already ahead of him, racing toward the train wreck I knew was coming. To Danielle Mercer, my daughter, primary ownership of Mercer Construction, including controlling interest and voting rights, along with the accompanying commercial properties in Houston and the surrounding counties. Danielle smiled, not a full smile, just the corner of her mouth pulling up like she'd finally unwrapped a gift she knew was hers the whole time. She didn't even glance my way. To Frank Mercer, my brother, 10% of business dividends in perpetuity, along with full ownership of the Bayfield Ranch and all assets located on its grounds. Frank let out a short breath through his nose, like a laugh he swallowed. Well, he muttered, guess loyalty still counts for something. To Carol Mercer, my sister-in-law, $50,000 in trust and continued access to the family condo in Sarasota. Aunt Carol whispered something to the woman beside her, probably a thank you prayer, the way she clutched her fake pearls. Every name that wasn't mine hit like a hammer. Stocks, land, accounts, vehicles, vacation homes, boats. Piece by piece, everything he ever built was handed out like candy at a funeral. Except to me. I kept my eyes locked on the wood grain of the table, counted the dark knots like pressure points, like if I focused hard enough, maybe none of this would land. Ryan's hand was still in mine. His palm was warm. I focused on that. Then came the silence. A pause too long. It told me more than any words would have. Mr. Hagen flipped a page. To my son, Derek Mercer, he said, voice even flatter now, I leave no assets or property. This decision reflects years of personal disagreement and estrangement. It is not made lightly. That was it. No explanation, no second chance, not even a scrap. Just a formal stamp confirming everything they'd been saying about me for years. I was the outsider, the failure, the one who left and wasn't welcome back. Someone coughed, someone else whispered, too low to catch, but loud enough to make sure I heard the tone. I didn't need to look up to know the looks I was getting, half pity, half smug. Danielle finally turned toward me, leaned back in her chair and said, well, at least it's official now. Frank chuckled. Knew he wasn't sentimental. I locked my jaw so tight I felt it click. My throat burned, but I swallowed it down. I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't let them see a damn thing. Not because I wasn't breaking, but because Ryan was still holding my hand. He gave it a small squeeze. No words, just a reminder that I wasn't alone at the table, that this wasn't the end of anything that mattered. Mr. Hagen kept talking, moving through a few more minor items, but I didn't hear most of it. My ears were ringing, my body was here, but my mind was floating somewhere above it, watching the slow collapse of a man trying to stay upright. The finality of it didn't hit like thunder. It was quieter than that. It hit like standing in a room full of people who once called you family and realizing none of them ever really saw you to begin with. But Ryan did, and his grip was steady. Mr. Hagen cleared his throat again, reaching for the next folder. His hand hovered over it like he was about to declare the meeting done. People started shifting in their seats, already checked out. Then Ryan spoke. "Excuse me," he said, loud and clear. Not scared, just certain. "There's a recording. My grandpa gave it to me." The room froze. Chairs stopped moving. Conversations died mid-whisper. Even Hagen looked like someone hit pause on him. His hand stayed in the air, eyes fixed on my son, like he wasn't sure he heard right. I turned toward Ryan, stunned. "What are you talking about?" He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a thick envelope. Cream-colored, handwritten on the front. My dad's handwriting. I knew it the second I saw the slanted R in Ryan. "He gave it to me a few months ago," he said quietly, "when we met." I stared at him. "You met? When?" Ryan didn't flinch. When we came to Houston in the summer, that time you thought I was upstairs with my book, he came to the hotel, asked me not to tell you yet, said I'd know when it was time. He slid the envelope across the table toward Mr. Hagen. My heart was beating so loud I could barely hear anything else. Hagen picked it up slowly, inspecting the outside. Then he opened it, pulled out a flash drive. A printed note was wrapped around it. He read it in silence, lips moving just barely. I saw his shoulders stiffen. "I recognize this," he said finally. "It's Bill's signature. These are his instructions." Danielle shot forward in her seat. "That can't be real. He would have told me." Frank leaned in, snatching at the paper in Hagen's hand, but the lawyer pulled it back fast. "You don't get to cherry-pick what counts," Frank said. "He already made the damn will." "This is nothing?" Hagen stood up, full height now. His voice sharpened. "If this is what it appears to be, and I believe it is, then I'm obligated to play it. Bill left very specific directions. If a recording was delivered posthumously, it overrides any previous verbal statements." Danielle's face went pale. "This is ridiculous. That could be fake." He was confused at the end. We all know that. "He was lucid," Hagen said. "This is dated August 12th. Everything after that was notarized. Your father was very clear on legal protocol." The room had flipped. A minute ago, I was the dead space at the end of the table. Now all eyes were bouncing between me, my kid, and that flash drive like it was a live grenade. I didn't say anything. Couldn't. Ryan just sat back, calm as ever, like he hadn't just turned the entire room inside out. Mr. Hagen didn't ask for permission. He moved like a man who knew the ground had shifted and wasn't about to waste time pretending it hadn't. He walked to the end of the room, plugged the flash drive into the conference screen, and dimmed the lights halfway. The hum of the projector filled the silence. I could hear someone's knee bouncing. Someone else sucked in a sharp breath and held it. The screen flickered, then settled. My father appeared. He looked older than I remembered, thinner. His shoulders slumped forward like the weight he'd been carrying finally bent him. The office behind him wasn't the one he used to command. No polished desk, no awards on the wall, just a plain chair, neutral background, like he wanted nothing distracting from what he had to say. He stared into the camera for a long second, jaw tight. Then he spoke. "Derek," he said. Just my name, no title, no edge. My chest locked up. "I don't know if you'll ever see this," he continued, voice rough. "But if you are, then I owe you a lot more than I ever gave." The room didn't move. Even Danielle sat frozen, her hands clenched in her lap. "I believed the wrong people," he said. "I let myself be guided by anger and pride. Frank's voice was always louder than yours, and I let that decide things it never should have." Frank shifted in his chair. The leather creaked. He didn't speak. "I told myself you were weak," my dad went on, "that you ran because you couldn't handle responsibility, that you chose the easy way out." He paused, swallowed hard. "That was a lie, one I repeated until I believed it." My hands were numb. Ryan leaned into my side, his shoulder pressing against my arm. "I pushed you away when you needed support," my father said, "when you needed a father, and instead of listening, I punished you for not being who I wanted." A chair scraped quietly somewhere near the back of the room. Someone inhaled too fast and too loud, then caught themselves. "I didn't understand your choice back then," he said. "I thought walking away from the business was walking away from family, but that was my failure, not yours." He leaned forward, closer to the camera. "When I met your son," he said, "I finally understood." Ryan stiffened beside me. "He came to see me alone," my dad said. "Didn't ask for anything, didn't argue. He listened. He asked questions no one in this room ever bothered to ask me." Danielle's head snapped up, eyes locked on the screen. "He talked about you," my father continued, "about how you show up, how you leave work early to make games, how you walk away from money if it costs you peace." My throat burned. "I realized then that you didn't fail me," he said. "I failed you." The words hung there, heavy and real, no excuses, no spin. "I let lies shape my decisions," he said. "I let silence turn into distance, and by the time I wanted to fix it, I was already running out of time." He straightened like he was bracing himself. "This recording is not about punishment," he said. "It's about truth. Derek deserved to be heard, and I denied him that for too long." The camera shook slightly like someone had adjusted it. Then his voice steadied. "I am proud of the man you became," he said. "Not because of what you walked away from, but because of what you chose to protect." No one laughed, no one whispered. The room felt sealed shut. "I hope someday you understand," he finished, "that I see you now." The screen went black. No one moved. I exhaled, slow and shaky, and Ryan squeezed my hand again, hard this time, like he was pulling me back into the room. The screen flickered back on. My father hadn't moved much, but his eyes were steadier now, like saying the hard part out loud gave him room to breathe. "There's more," he said, "and I need everyone in that room to listen." Danielle's chair creaked as she leaned forward. Frank's jaw tightened. "I revised my estate plans privately," my father said. "Not out of anger, not out of guilt, out of responsibility." He lifted a folder into frame. It looked worn, corners bent, like it had been opened and closed more times than anyone knew. "I named Derek as my primary beneficiary," he said. "That includes the riverfront property, the long-term investment accounts, and a trust set aside specifically for Ryan's future." The words hit like a delayed explosion. I felt it in my chest first, then my hands, then everywhere all at once. "This isn't a reward," my father continued. "It's not payment for loyalty or punishment for anyone else." Frank scoffed under his breath. Danielle shook her head slowly, like she was watching something illegal happen in real time. "This is me making things right," my father said. "Late, but honest." He leaned back, rubbing a hand over his face. "I know how this will be received," he went on. "I know there will be anger, accusations, claims that I was manipulated or confused." He looked straight into the camera. "I wasn't." The room felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were pressing in. "I made this decision fully aware of what it would cost," he said, "and I'm prepared for that." Danielle's fingers curled into fists. Frank opened his mouth, then shut it again. "I'm proud of the life Derek built," my father said. "Not because it looks good on paper, but because it's steady, because his son feels safe, because he walked away from power to protect something real." My throat tightened so hard I had to swallow twice. "I didn't understand that choice when he made it," he said. "I do now." He paused, then his voice softened. "Ryan," he said. My son straightened beside me, eyes locked on the screen. "Thank you," my father said, "for coming to see me, for telling me the truth when everyone else told me what they thought I wanted to hear." Ryan's grip on my hand tightened. "You reminded me of who your father is," my dad said, "and who I should have been." He nodded once, like sealing it. "That's all," he said. "I hope this brings some peace. To both of you." The screen went dark. No one spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was heavy, final, like the kind that settles after something irreversible has been said out loud. I stared at the blank screen. My ears rang. My chest hurt in a way I couldn't name. Relief crashed into grief, hard and messy, and I couldn't separate them. Ryan leaned into me again. I wrapped an arm around his shoulders without thinking, my hand resting there like it belonged. Across the table, Danielle hadn't moved. Her face was pale, eyes unfocused. Frank looked small for the first time I could remember, his shoulders slumped, mouth tight. Mr. Hagan cleared his throat but didn't speak yet. He let the moment sit. I stayed where I was, hands planted on the table, breathing slow, letting the truth settle in my bones. Danielle stood up so fast her chair slammed against the wall behind her. "No," she snapped. "This is bullshit." Her voice cracked just enough to show the panic behind it. She looked at Hagan like he was personally responsible for everything falling apart. "He was manipulated," she said, pointing at me without looking at me. "He was sick. You all saw it." No one backed her up. The air was still. Mr. Hagan stayed calm. "The document is signed, time-stamped, witnessed, and protected by clause. The video only reinforces it. It's valid." Danielle laughed once, short, bitter. "No, I'm not staying for this circus." She grabbed her purse and stormed out, heels punching the floor with every step. Frank didn't follow. He sat there, jaw twitching, grinding whatever fight he had left down to dust. "You knew he wasn't right in the head," he said low, eyes locked on the table. "You just didn't care." Hagan didn't respond, neither did I. Frank finally pushed himself up, slow, like his joints hurt. He didn't look at me, but his voice aimed straight across the table. This changes nothing. You'll see. Then he walked out, leaving behind the smell of too much cologne and a trail of wasted pride. A few others, distant cousins, old company faces, got up quietly. Some offered polite nods. Most just kept their heads down, like they didn't want to get caught on the wrong side of something they couldn't spin. No one said a word to me. Hagen started packing his briefcase, careful and unbothered. "I'll send the final documents to your address in Springfield," he said. "The transfer's already in motion." I just nodded. He looked at Ryan, then back at me. "Your father meant every word." Then he left too. And just like that, the room was empty. Me, my son, 4 cold cups of coffee, 1 flipped-over chair. I leaned back in mine, finally exhaling. The kind of exhale you hold in for 10 years and don't even realize. Everything I'd feared walking into this room, being humiliated, erased, mocked, it all collapsed under the truth. Not because I fought, not because I yelled, but because, for once, the facts spoke louder than their noise. The same table where they used to shut me down had nothing left on it now. Just silence. And honestly, it was the first silence I'd ever been comfortable sitting in. Ryan and I stayed seated for a while after the door closed. The kind of stillness that doesn't ask for anything. I looked at him, really looked, and felt something swell in my chest that had nothing to do with winning, or money, or getting the last word. "Hey," I said quietly. "Thank you." He turned his head toward me, eyes calm. "You don't have to." "I do," I said. "You didn't just back me up. You changed everything." He shrugged like it was nothing. "I just wanted you to hear it, from him, not through somebody else." That hit deeper than I expected. The kid didn't want revenge. He didn't want to hurt anybody or fix anything. He just wanted me to know I hadn't imagined it. Everything they did, everything they twisted, and everything my dad finally admitted. "You knew more than I did," I said. "You kept that letter this whole time. You didn't say a word." "I didn't think you were ready yet," he said, matter of fact. "I figured you'd know when it mattered." I had no idea how a 10-year-old could carry that kind of clarity. But there he was, sitting next to me like he'd just held his own in a room full of wolves and come out untouched. "I'm proud of you," I said. "Not just today, always." His face didn't change much, but I saw the corners of his mouth lift a little. That was all I needed. We sat in silence again, just breathing. I looked around the room, the long table, the dim light, the empty chairs. A place built to measure power that never left space for people like me. And yet somehow we made room for ourselves anyway. I used to think breaking away from all this meant cutting ties and walking away angry. Turns out, sometimes it just means staying still long enough to let the truth land. And realizing the cycle doesn't get to keep spinning unless you let it. Ryan leaned into me, resting his head on my arm like he used to when he was smaller. "I didn't care about the money," he said. "I know," I said. "Me neither. It wasn't about what we got. It was about what we didn't have to carry anymore. That old weight of shame, of blame, of feeling like I'd failed just by choosing peace, it was gone. What mattered now was this moment. This kid. This freedom we carved out with nothing but quiet honesty. And for the first time in years, I felt still. We stood up together. I didn't look back at the table or the chairs or the blank screen. I didn't need to. Ryan grabbed my hand like he had on the way in. Only this time, there wasn't any tension in his grip, just steady warmth. We walked out of the conference room and down the hall. The walls felt less narrow, the floor less heavy. Even the air smelled different, like the building had finally let go of something too. The elevator opened, we stepped inside, and I caught a glimpse of us in the mirrored panel, me and my son, shoulder to shoulder, both standing a little straighter. I didn't feel broken, I didn't feel angry, I felt free. All those years I'd spent running from this place, I thought staying away was how I won. But it wasn't. It was this moment, walking out of here with nothing to prove and nothing left to carry, that finally gave me peace. My father's words stayed with me, not like some warm apology, but like a long overdue recognition. I see you now. That was all I ever wanted, not to be praised, not to be accepted into some cold dynasty built on pride and silence, just to be seen, for who I was, for what I chose. I didn't need the money, I didn't need the land. What I needed was exactly what I got, truth, spoken out loud, in front of the same people who used to pretend I didn't exist. And the silence I once feared, it didn't follow me out the door this time. It walked beside me, quiet and calm, earned. We hit the lobby. The receptionist barely looked up. Same bland lights, same front desk. But I wasn't the same man who walked in here. Outside, the wind had picked up. The sky was clear. The day was moving on, just like we were. Ryan tugged at my hand. "Where to now?" "Home," I said. "Where we've always belonged." He nodded once, satisfied. We crossed the parking lot together, step for step. No victory speech, no dramatic ending. Just a door closing behind us and the rest of our lives wide open. Thank you for being with us. Don't miss our new stories. They're coming soon. If you haven't yet, please leave a like and follow the page to see more great content. Your support means a lot to us and motivates us to create even more warm, meaningful stories. See you next time. Take care and stay curious.